Declaro aberta a segunda sessão de trabalho da reunião de mulheres parlamentares do BRICS, com o tema Fortalecendo as Mulheres para enfrentar a crise climática. Perspectivas do BRICS. Estimadas colegas parlamentares, senhoras e senhores, em um mundo cada vez mais impactado pelas mudanças climáticas, o compromisso com o desenvolvimento sustentável tornou-se premissa fundadora de todas as nossas ações e políticas. Os países do BRICS, pela sua magnitude demográfica, diversidade de biomas e significativo peso econômico, possuem
have the responsibilities and potential incomparable of the construction of solutions, transformation for the equilibrium of environment and injustice, social injustice. In the center of this agenda, you will find the situation of women, agents to promote this sustainability. The climate crisis does not affect individuals the same way. Women, especially on the rural sections in communities, indigenous and suburbans, frankly, of a mode more intense, the effects of the instability of the environment, the regression of the immigration, the forced immigration, even though these women have been traditionally live leadership of defending of the territories. The resilience of the capacity of innovation of the women have been decided with experience of adaptation of the climate, conservation of natural resource, health, food, and construction of practice, sustainability, of protection of the territories. See the theme about the Arctic climb in place. Notice that it's not, just don't have to face it, you need to rethink social extraction and economic in a way to eliminate disequality of gender and value the potential transformation of the participation of the women participation of the formulation political ambient. It's extremely important of experience lived is recognized, included on the process of decisions in all levels. In this scenario, we will put debated and responsibilities for the parliamentary. We cannot concede politics of different climate that are not anchored, solid, capable of having financial and on the distribution of benefits.
It's up to the Parliament to approve laws that, beyond foster climate policies and environmental policies, they incorporate in a transversal way the picture of gender and the climate actions dealing with the feminine leadership and the negotiation, international negotiations, driving resources for sustainable projects fostered by women, promoting its technical capacitation and guaranteeing equality of access and natural resources, financing, and green technologies. It grows the comprehension in all the planet that the climate justice is only feasible when it walks side by side with the justice, the gender justice. The women role of the parliamentary women in BRICS, it's extremely important for the building of this new architecture, of this new regulatory architecture. Through our collective acting, we can foster bold agendas that strengthen the climate justice, putting the women as protagonists of the ecological transition. Directive fiscalize its implementation and also create pacts among countries that assures a sustainability, a true humane sustainability, diverse and democratic. Together, we have the duty to transform the climate challenge into opportunity of political renewal, social and environmental for our nations. I wish that this debate translates into solid partnerships, innovative programs, and new efforts. The central role of women in the fight for the sustainability, it's an asset to guarantee the future of the next generations in the countries of BRICS. With resilience, inclusion, peace and ecological justice in the center of our decisions. Before handing the floor to the panelists, it is important to make some clarifications. I would like here once again to salute every one of you, ladies and gentlemen, of several countries that make BRICS, and I want to salute in the name of the Federal Senate each and every one of you, especially you, women parliamentarians, in this important event for us to, together, in a collective way, bring solutions for the climate problems of our countries. And in order to organize our work, each panelist may use the floor up to 5 minutes in order to guarantee the fulfillment of our agenda and also the equality among the representatives. The audio system of this meeting room, it is programmed to talk the ring 30 seconds before the end of the specific time as an alert in order to finish her speech. And the microphones will be turned off after 5 minutes of use of the word. I also request that all speak in a very slow and paused way in order for the simultaneous translation can reflect the speech with the utmost precision. I'd like to thank the comprehension and the cooperation with these necessary rules for the good development of the session. Before handing the floor for the first panelist, I'd like to enforce for those who want to subscribe to the NBD, women as agents and beneficiaries of financing, and the inscriptions are still open and may be
com a servidora Thaisa,
straight with Thaisa, the civil servant that is near the exit at the back of the plenary. And I'd like to hand over the floor for 5 minutes to Ma'am
Nqabisa
Gantsho, member of the Low Chamber of South Africa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the session. It is a privilege for me and the people of South Africa to contribute to the important BRICS Women Parliamentarians sub-theme, and we appreciate the warm welcome in Brazil. Climate change is an urgent global challenge that exacerbates existing environmental, social, and economic problems while introducing new challenges such as increased frequency and intensity of floods, wildfires, heat waves, and droughts in various parts of the world, including South Africa. These climate change-induced challenges exacerbate water insecurity, crop failures, food insecurity, and health risks, resulting in damaging to critical infrastructure and disruptions to the provision of basic services. While all feels these impacts, underlying inequalities and uneven coping capacities leave some population more vulnerable. Women are at a heightened risk due to the several factors. They are overrepresented among the poor, highly dependent on natural resources for their livelihoods, and frequently excluded from environmental decision-making processes. This often leads to women suffering a disproportionate impact from both natural and man-made disasters. The United Nations reports that women are 14 times more likely than men to die in natural disasters. These statistics result from unequal access to essential resources. Women, particularly in impoverished rural areas, often lack information, technology, skills, transportation, secure houses, land ownership, stable jobs, and income, vital for daily life and crisis. Furthermore, women primarily care for children, the elderly, and the disabled, along with other domestic responsibilities. Without sufficient physical and economic support, women are notably more vulnerable to the impacts of disasters. Ironically, women, despite being the most affected, women lead post-disaster recovery efforts. While this reflects our resilience, it adds a significant burden. The loss of infrastructure like homes, schools, and health services, along with financial insecurity, can lead to severe consequences for women and girls. Lacking security and services increase vulnerability to gender-based violence, sexual transmitted diseases, unintended pregnancies, early marriages, and other forms of abuse. Therefore, BRICS member states must adopt a gendered approach to disaster risk management to mitigate these risks for women. The South African Parliament is overseeing the climate change adaptation and gender mainstreaming initiatives, aiming to incorporate gendered consideration into adaptation plans and include women as decision makers in climate change processes. BRICS member states should advocate for similar gender mainstreaming in all climate change responses. These actions must be integrated into spatial planning, and there needs to be improved data availability for monitoring and evaluating interventions. This will allow for the establishment of growth of an inclusive climate response. BRICS member states significantly contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, driving climate change, which disproportionately affects women. Our parliaments must oversee program implementation in line with the nationally determined contributions. While taking responsibility for the emissions, we must reinforce the common but differentiated responsibilities of the Paris Agreement. As I conclude, Chair, our journey towards the sustainable future free from effects of climate change hinges on our collective ability to address the disproportionate impact of women. As BRICS nations, we hold a unique position to champion a gender-responsive approach to climate action by prioritizing women's leadership, ensuring their equitable participation in decision-making and recovering efforts, and investment in their economic and social empowerment. We not only safeguard our most vulnerable, but also unlock the powerful force to resilience and innovation. Let us commit to concrete actions that bridge the gender gap and climate response, fostering an environment where women are not just survivors, but active architects of the climate just world for all. Thank you, Chair.
Parabéns pelas suas palavras.
Thank you for your words.
E agora eu concedo a
I'd
palavra
like to
por
hand over
5
the floor for
minutos
5 minutes
à senhora
to Ma'am
Maryam Abdollahi,
Maryam
membro
Abdollahi,
do Parlamento do
member
Irã.
of the Iran Parliament.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, at the outset, I would like to express the Islamic Republic of Iran's profound pleasure and gratitude for the opportunity to participate in this forum. Today, the world faces unprecedented challenges, with climate crisis standing at the forefront, threatening the environment, social justice, sustainable development, and human dignity. In this regard, the role of women as pillars of family and society in confronting this crisis is undeniable and vital. Iran Guided has consistently emphasized the empowerment of women who constitute half of society's human capital. Women-inspired Islam are not only guardians of cultural and spiritual values, but also pioneers of transformation in social and environmental spheres. In this regard, Iran, relying on its national policies and international commitments, has taken effective steps on enhanced women's participation and leadership in addressing climate-related challenges. Climate crisis disproportionately affect communities, particularly women and children. Women are on the front lines of this crisis due to their daily livelihood dependence on natural resources. These women, drawing on indigenous knowledge, creativity, and resilience, can offer effective solutions. Recognizing this reality, the Islamic Republic of Iran has designed and implemented comprehensive national programs to empower women in environmental governance and has given priority to education and awareness in order to enhance the ecological knowledge of women and girls. For example, in water management projects across arid provinces, the active participation of women has led to efficiency gains and water saving of up to 30%. We firmly believe that education is the cornerstone of empowerment. Educated women as transformative leaders can lead communities toward a greener and more resilient future. BRICS can facilitate the exchange of expertise, technology transfer, and capacity building. Empowering women in climate governance safeguard the well-being of future generations. This past demands cohesive political will, inclusive participation, and international support. Iran has undertaken extensive efforts through governmental mechanisms and by supporting mostly women-led civil society organizations to combat the adverse effects of climate change and protect the environment. Empowering women to address climate crisis requires our overcoming structural, technological, and financial barriers. Unilateral and unjust sanctions against Iran have restricted our access to green technologies, international financing, and scientific collaboration, hindering our efforts towards sustainable development and women's empowerment. Thus, we call upon the international community, and particularly BRICS member states, to take effective and united action to lift such obstacles and to establish fair and impactful frameworks for cooperation. Excellencies, Iran stands ready to expand purposeful and effective cooperation with BRICS member states in empowering women and addressing climate crisis. To this end, we purpose the establishment of a special BRICS working group to support women's environmental initiatives. This body can play a pivotal role in facilitating technology exchange, financing green projects, and strengthening women's roles in environmental decision-making. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that empowering women is not only a moral and humanitarian imperative, but also a wise strategy for building a fairer, more resilient and livable world. Undoubtedly, the earth is our shared home and our mother. And who better than mothers to protect it? Thank you for your attention.
Parabéns pelas palavras tão pertinentes nesse debate.
Thank you for important words in this debate. Thank you very much. And now I grant the floor for 5 minutes
a senhora Shabari
to Lady Shabari Byreddi,
membro da
member
Câmara Baixa da
of
Índia.
the Lower Chamber of India.
Honorable Chairperson, distinguished delegates, it's an honor to speak on a very profound topic which has been very important. And climate change has gradually grown into a crisis, and it's accelerating at a very fast pace. It is also heavily altering the ecosystem. We are already facing its consequences that are devastating. Dear friends, the last 4 years were the hottest 4 years, and according to September 2019 Meteorological Organization report, we are at least 1 degree above the pre-industrial level and close to what scientists call it as unacceptable risk. We as a multilateral bloc have indeed recognized the difficulties and challenges that we are facing in achieving the goals of global carbon neutrality. We are also aware of the bottlenecks to achieve this. Developing countries, emerging countries, and also developed countries have their own set of challenges and also opportunities in arresting this climate change. BRICS member countries have made its contribution in addressing climate change, and I sincerely applaud each and every member country in standing tall to protect and preserve our Earth. India is also committed to strong climate action, and the climate action is not just the recent one. It has started from the early 1970s. If I can mention about the Chipko movement that has been started by our rural women in order to protect the forests and trees. India has made great strides towards meeting and even exceeding its initial NDCs under the Paris Agreement. Emission intensity of GDP has already reduced by 24% over 2005 levels. India has installed 159 GW of non-fossil electric capacity, thereby already achieving its NDC pertaining to 40%, and we are almost 8 years ahead of our schedule. The National Hydrogen Mission, which has been launched for generating hydrogen from the green energy, which is an alternative to the fossil fuel. India's forest and tree cover is steadily increasing, and it is about 26.4%. Of which the India has added 23 wetlands to the Ramsar sites in the last 3 years, and now we are the largest network of Ramsar sites in the entire South Asia. And also, women in India are called Shakti. That means a power. We have the power to change and also heal the world. And women are interlinked in the nature. So when women are involved by promoting clean energy, sustainable agriculture, and climate resilient infrastructure, solution will be very effective and equitable. In India, government has been actively working towards women's empowerment and also gender equality through various policies and schemes. I would like to mention few policies where Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, that is to educate a girl child and also save the girl child, which has been launched in 2015, focuses on improving the child-sex ratio, promoting girls' education, and combating discrimination. Mission Shakti, which aims to strengthen interventions for women well-being and address issues across their life. And also another important scheme is the Sankalp scheme, whose primary goal is to strengthen skill development in the institution. Another milestone is the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyan, which we have about 1/3 reservation for women parliamentarians and also in the legislative assemblies. Empowering women and BRICS nations is not only a matter of providing equal opportunities and social justice. It is an important umbrella approach. By addressing gender inequalities and empowering women to participate in climate action, BRICS countries can definitely unlock their full potential and build a more sustainable future. Thank you.
Parabéns à senhora
Congratulations to Ms. Shabari
pelas suas
Byreddi
palavras.
for her words.
A Índia realmente avançou
India has actually advanced a lot
nessa área, né,
in this area, in this climate area. Congratulations.
Agora concedo a
Now I
palavra
hand
por
the floor
5 minutos
for 5 minutes
à senhora
to Ms.
Sara Falaknaz,
Sara
membro do
Falaknaz,
Parlamento dos Emirados Árabes Unidos.
member of the Parliament of the United Arab Emirates.
Excelências,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to contribute to this important session on strengthening the role of women in addressing the climate crisis. The topic before us reflects both the urgency of our environmental responsibilities and the need to ensure that our responses are inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. As we gather today, the world faces a climate emergency that affects us all, but not equally. Women and girls, particularly in rural and vulnerable communities, are impacted. The United Nations estimate that they make up nearly 80% of those displaced by climate change and are 14 times more likely to die in climate-related disasters. Yet women remain underrepresented in climate decision-making, accounting for less than 1/3 of delegates in global negotiation, while less than 10% of climate finance is gender responsive. This gap weakens our response and limits the effectiveness of global climate solutions. These realities demand more than recognition. They require targeted, inclusive policy responses, and parliaments are central to that effort. As women parliamentarians, we are not only advocates, but decision makers. It is our responsibility to shape legislation that integrates gender into climate policy, ensure that budgets for adaptation and resilience address women's specific needs, and use our oversight role to guarantee inclusive and community-focused implementation. Your Excellencies, in the United Arab Emirates, empowering women in climate action is a national policy priority. Today, women hold more than 70% of leadership roles in the biodiversity sectors at the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. Gender equality is embedded in our national climate strategies, including the UAE Net Zero 2050 initiative and our national adaptation planning. In the lead up to and during COP28, we launched the Climate Change and Gender Equality Initiative in partnership with UN Women and the General Women's Union in women's participation in climate policy at all levels of government. At the parliamentary level, a sustainability committee established in 2022 and chaired by a female member of parliament has led effort to green operations. These initiatives reflect our belief that parliaments must lead by example and that inclusive leadership drives effective climate action. In conclusion, the climate crisis requires equity, leadership, and sustained commitment. Women must be at the center of both policymaking and implementation if we are to build climate-resilient societies that leave no one behind. Thank you.
Parabéns pelas palavras,
Congratulations for your words,
senhora Sara.
Miss
E realmente
Sara.
a mulher tem que estar
Really, the
no
women
foco
must be
dessas
indeed in the focus
deliberações
of these deliberations.
climáticas. Por isso que aqui estamos.
That is why we're here.
Agora eu concedo a palavra por
I hand
5
the floor
minutos
for 5 minutes
à senhora
to Ma'am
Nora Ali,
Nora Ali,
membro da Câmara Baixa
member of
do
the lower
Egito.
chamber of Egypt.
الحضور الكرام أود بداية أن أعرب عن بالغ الشكر والتقدير
Distinguished attendees, at the outset, I would like to express my profound gratitude and appreciation to the Parliament of Brazil for the warm reception and hospitality. I deeply value the tireless efforts of this forum in addressing climate change, which has become a critical issue for the present and future of our world. The global impacts of climate change are now widespread and unprecedented, both in terms of their causes, manifestations, and scope of influence. This impact disproportionately burdens women, particularly in developing countries, where they heavily rely on local natural resources for their livelihoods, such as agriculture. These sectors are severely affected by climate change, leading to threats to economic stability, food security, and exacerbating health issues, poverty, and lack of education. In extreme cases, women may even face the risk of displacement. We all recognize that adapting to these impacts will become increasingly difficult and costly in the future if immediate and radical measures are not taken. These actions must prioritize enhancing women's resilience and adaptability to climate change. Women are not merely victims of climate change. They are essential partners in adaptation and mitigation efforts. They possess deep knowledge of local environments and sustainable practices, which can be pivotal in developing effective adaptation strategies and achieving stronger, more sustainable outcomes. Dear colleagues, BRICS nations face a set of shared challenges, in addition to those unique to each country, that hinder the achievement of net zero carbon emissions. Chief among these is the increasing reliance on fossil fuels in their economies. Our gathering here underscores our firm conviction that climate change poses a grave threat, necessitating an approach rooted in justice and fairness regarding climate justice and a just transition to adaptation. This approach must consider the social and economic specificities of each country and various groups, particularly women, when formulating climate policies and working to enhance their active participation at all levels is crucial. In this context, I am pleased to commend the BRICS Economic Partnership Strategy 2025, adopted in 2020, which outlines the group's development trajectory, establishes a framework for cooperation among its members, and emphasizes the need to ensure the social and economic participation participation of BRICS populations, particularly women and youth. It also places a special focus on addressing climate change. I equally appreciate the BRICS proposal in April 2025 to develop a new geopolitical climate strategy, which underscores the necessity of coordinating efforts and providing adequate resources to promote sustainable development in the Global South. This represents clear support for women's empowerment by integrating their issues into climate plans and ensuring their access to equitable financing initiatives. Dear attendees, our fundamental role as legislators compels us to proactively propose, discuss, and enact advanced and comprehensive legislation to mitigate the impacts of climate change, particularly those that incorporate a gender perspective, in order to build a more balanced and prosperous future. Parliamentarians from BRICS nations can play a prominent and effective role in this regard through the following measures. Strengthen cooperation on climate change to ensure the full and effective implementation of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, and the Paris Agreement. Thank you very much. In establishing knowledge-sharing platforms by developing regional and global networks are also of utmost importance. Thank you for listening and your kind attention.
Compreendo, igualmente a você, que as mulheres parlamentares têm peso muito grande nesses debates e especificamente nesse debate sobre as mudanças climáticas, onde as mulheres são as mais atingidas com os problemas climáticos dos nossos países,
of our countries
e de todo o mundo.
And all of the world.
E agora concedo a palavra por 5 minutos à senhora Roza Chemeris, membro da Câmara Baixa da
Lower
Rússia.
Chamber of Russia.
Слово.
Уважаемые коллеги, добрый день.
Distinguished
Рада приветствовать участников
good
второй рабочей
afternoon.
сессии
It's a great honor and privilege for me to welcome women MPs at this 11th BRICS Parliamentary Forum. I would like to thank the Brazilian chairmanship for the wonderful arrangement. I would like to offer my special greetings to our BRICS partner countries who are taking part in this forum for the first time. I'm certain that by joining our work, you will make our efforts even more effective. Russia is one of the leading members of the international climate process in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and ensuring that the whole world abides by the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. And we believe that the Paris Agreement provides a reliable framework for long-term climate regulation, and in this context we suggest focusing on implementing the Paris Agreement and the UNFCCC so that every country, each state party can determine its own contribution to fighting climate change based on the national conditions and approaches. At the same time, we urge all the participants to avoid being too alarmist when dealing with climate change and not to use the term of climate crisis. We have to take into account scientific data and we must proceed from these data in order to promote sustainable development. Brazil will be hosting the COP30 in November 2025 under the UNFCCC. Russia has a lot of expert potential in terms of sustainable development, and we will do everything to help adopt new solutions under the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement. And we wish every success, Brazil, when
будет
holding
продвигаться
the
важность учета в
COP30.
контексте негативных последствий изменения климата, особых
Climate
потребностей
change
женщин,
is a fact,
совмещающих в себе
and
сразу
women
несколько социальных ролей.
have
При этом
several
исходим из необходимости
social
действовать в рамках
roles they play
профильного
in our
решения по гендеру и
society,
изменению климата,
and
вместо не имеющего
we
добавленной стоимости
believe
механического
that
включения женской
we
тематики
should
во все
not
итоговые
just
документы
include
конференции.
the gender factor in
Женщины
factor,
играют
the
важнейшую
women
роль в
factor
воспитании
in
будущих
all our
поколений,
documents. We
которые
need
должны
to take
ответственно подходить к
meaningful
сохранению
action,
и защите
and
окружающей
we
среды
must
и
make
нивелированию
sure that
негативных
the young
последствий изменения
generation
климата. В
understands
то же время,
the
коллеги,
importance of
наивно
fighting
полагать, что
climate
одни лишь женщины
change.
и
It would be
мужчины
naive
смогут
to
решить
believe
все
that
глобальные проблемы, требующие коллективных
it's
действий.
enough to have
Не совсем
men
логичным
and
видится
women
усилия по
working
расширению
together
прав и
to
возможностей женщин именно в
find all
данной
the
конкретной
necessary
области.
solutions.
Мы убеждены,
We are
что женщина
convinced that
нуждается в
women need
поддержке и
support
продвижении, в том
and
числе на руководящей
empowerment,
роли,
including
без
to
привязки к какому-либо
be able
единичному или
to
тематическому процессу.
take on
Кроме
leadership
того,
roles,
стоит
but
иметь в виду,
this
что в
should
различных
not be
странах
limited to any
негативные
specific
последствия
policy
изменения климата
area.
ощущаются
We also
по-разному.
understand that
Соответственно,
all countries
потребности
have
и
their
видение
own
роли и вклада
climate
женщин в
problems
этой
and they
связи
suffer in
также
different
варьируются.
ways,
Так,
and the
в случае России
perspective
говорить о
regarding women's
непропорциональном влиянии изменения
empowerment
климата на
may
положение
also
женщин
vary.
или принципиально
For
отличном
example,
вкладе
in
женщин
Russia,
в
we
борьбу
cannot
с ним
say that Russia
представляется нам не
is
совсем
not
корректным.
that women are
Российская
disproportionately
Федерация
affected by
привержена
climate
своим
change. So this is
международным
not true for
обязательствам по
Russia.
обеспечению равенства в правах
Russia
между женщинами и
is
мужчинами
committed
и по
to
борьбе со
fulfilling
всеми
its
формами
international
дискриминации в отношении
obligation to
женщин.
ensure
Мы поддерживаем
gender
усилия, направленные
equality,
на
and we
реализацию
support
положений
efforts
итоговых
to
документов
implement
4-й
the
Всемирной
fourth
конференции по
World
положению женщин
Conference
в Пекине
on
в
Women
1995 году и
that was
23-й
adopted in
спецсессии
Beijing in
Генассамблеи ООН в Нью-Йорке в
1995, and the
2000 году,
23rd Special
а
Session
именно
of the UN
Пекинскую
General
декларацию и
Assembly, the
платформу
Beijing
действий и
Declaration and
политдекларацию
Platform of
климата
Action,
спецсоответствия.
and the Political Declaration
Несмотря на
Beijing
то, что в
Plus
этом году мы
5.
празднуем
This year we
30-летие
are
одобрения
marking the
Пекинской
30th
декларации и
anniversary
платформы
of the
действий.
Beijing
Нам предстоит
Declaration and
пройти
Platform
долгий
of
путь для
Action,
достижения
but we
поставленных
still
в этих
have a long
документах
way to
целей.
go
С нынешними
before
темпами,
we
закрепленной в
fulfill
повестке
these
дня в области
documents.
устойчивого развития на период до
There is
2030
Sustainable
года,
Development Goal number 5 in the 2030 agenda, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, but we are unlikely to fulfill this objective within the next 5 years. In order to enable women to fully exercise their right and fulfill their potential, they need to achieve a work-life balance, and we tend to overlook social support for women and social safety net for women. We need to put the necessary infrastructure in place so that women can fulfill their potential as mothers and caretakers. Thank you so much for your attention.
Parabéns pelas suas palavras, senhora Roza.
Congratulations for your work,
Chemeris.
Ms. Roza Chemeris.
Nós temos que nos preocupar com
We have to
a nossa
worry about our
população atual, mas também
current
pensar no
population, but
futuro,
also think about the
né?
future
Na geração vindoura.
and the next
Então,
generation.
muito bem colocadas
So
suas
it was
palavras.
very well put, your words.
E agora eu passo
And
a
now I hand the
palavra
floor
à senhora
to Ms.
Célia
Célia Xakriabá,
que é membro da Câmara
is
dos
member
Deputados
of
do
the
Brasil.
Chamber of
E a
Deputies in
senhora
Brazil.
deputada tem 5
And
minutos.
your
para
deputy
fala.
have 5 minutes for your panel.
Obrigada, presidenta.
Thank you, President.
Nós que somos as
We
primeiras mulheres
were the
brasileiras
first
de
Brazilian
Brasil,
women
que
of
começa
Brazil
pelas mulheres
that start by
indígenas,
the indigenous
embora nós
women,
sejamos a última a chegar
although
no
we are the
parlamento
last
brasileiro.
to arrive in the
O
Brazilian
Congresso Nacional,
Parliament. The National
companheira Leila,
Congress
senadora, demorou
Leila
109 anos para eleger a
took
primeira mulher
109
no
years to
parlamento
elect the
brasileiro.
first woman
Mas
in the
demorou
parliament.
195
But
anos
took
para eleger a
195
primeira mulher
years to
indígena
elect the
Joênia
first
Wapichana. E demorou
indigenous
200
women,
anos
and
para
also
ter a
took
primeira
200
mulher
years to have the
indígena
first
a ser
indigenous woman
presidenta de uma
to be the
comissão.
president of
Com muito
commission.
orgulho, fui a
With
primeira
a
mulher
very
indígena
pride,
a ser
was the
presidenta da
first
Comissão
indigenous
da
woman to be
Amazônia,
president of
Povos
the Amazon
Originários
Commission and
Tradicionais
original
no ano de
people
2023.
in the years of
Aqui também
2023.
com minha companheira
Here
Juliana,
as well
que
with
é
my
indígena.
company
E agora,
that is also
recentemente,
indigenous.
2025,
And now,
sou
more recently,
presidenta da Comissão em
2025, I'm also
Defesa
the
dos Direitos das
president
Mulheres. Gostaria
of
de
the
saudar aqui
Commission
todas as
of the
mulheres
Civil
brasileiras que são mais do
Women's
que a
Right.
metade da
I would like to
população
salute
brasileira.
the Brazilian
É
women that
importante
have
que
more than half the
aqui, a partir
population.
dessa perspectiva,
Through this
nós
perspective,
consigamos
we may
dialogar e fazer esse debate,
be able to
a pauta
dialogue and have this
inovadora
debate
que eu
in
trouxe
this
para essa
innovative
comissão
subject that we brought to debate gender and climate. We understand that the first woman of the humanity, the ancient, is Earth itself. So when the indigenous women arrive at the National Congress, arrive in the Commission, we make the policy not on the place of a deputy. The forest speaks, the water speaks, Amazon speaks, the Cerrado speaks. We understand that women, girls and women, they face vulnerability among several disasters. Some data reveal 80% of the displacement, of climate displacement. The greatest part of this percentage is women. Here in Brazil, there was a case that sensibilized the world, is the Yanomami matter. More than 30 girls were raped as a result of illegal mining in indigenous land. It is needed that in this moment we bring the subject to the National Congress, but also in the global agenda. That today, think about environmental defense not only have to be thought as a defense measure, it's also a humanitarian agenda. Indigenous people are 5% of Brazil, of world population. We protect more than 80% of the biodiversity, of the world biodiversity. It's important to say that the greatest Sumaúma has 60 meters tall. It has more than 500 years. The greatest building in Brazil, known as Copacabana Palace in Brazil, it took 3 years, and it has 70 meters. It's 10 meters higher than the Samaúma tree. It's needed to understand the time of nature and the time of the man. Reforestation takes too much time. Brazil can lose the state of Paraná with more than 11 million inhabitants if approved. A project is about to be approved in this house that is known as the project of devastation. The money may avoid but the money cannot bring a forest out of the river back. The countries here from BRICS, I left a recommendation for the President of the Republic to orient the countries of BRICS to destiny 5% of the military of gender and climate. It is also needed to say that this Congress, we have a bill of law that is fighting the violence against indigenous women. If the Brazilian Congress, the retrocess process to the indigenous people, 80% of this protected area benefits 57% of the Brazilian agribusiness, and the deficit of the Angolan economy is going to be 338 billion. The forest is the land that sustains the economy. The money is not able to bring another planet. Although we're from different countries, we're different continents, with different fights, we share the same planet. In order to conclude, we say that indigenous people avoid the falling of the sky. It's indigenous women are guardians of the planet for the cure of humanity. Inspired in a Brazilian singer, Alcione, says that we are women of the end of the world. I say, parliamentarians committed helps to avoid the end of the others. Because we know that there is no parliament if there is no forest. There is no parliament if there is no planet. Smart economy is an economy that doesn't kill us. It's a call for think the digital age, but it's also the responsibilities of reforest the politics.
Parabéns pelas suas palavras, deputada.
Thank you for your words, Deputy Xakriabá.
Foram muito pertinentes
They were
todas as suas
really
colocações.
pertinent, all your appointments.
Eu quero
And now,
convidar
I'd like to invite
a falar a senhora Leila Barros, que é a
Miss
nossa
Leila
líder
Barros, that is our
da
leader
bancada feminina
of the Feminine Caucus and the Federal Senate.
Você tem, senadora Leila,
And you have, Senator Leila, 5 minutes for your speech.
Thank you, Senadora Eudócia, President of this section.
Tê-la comigo aí nessa legislatura no Senado Federal.
Thanks for being here with me.
Vivendo as dores, as alegrias.
Getting all the harsh and the good part, and you know it's
colegas parlamentares,
for my fellow parliamentarians
do BRICS,
from BRICS, Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be with all of you in this meeting, united by the theme that is not only urgent, but extensional. The climate crisis and the fundamental role of the woman is overcoming it. I would like to begin by recognizing the strategic role of BRICS in global climate geopolitics. Our country gathered nearly half of the planet's population, hold immense biodiversity territories with vast natural resources, and above all, the power forces of global South. This pronouncement becomes even more essential in the face of a new and concerning global scenario. One of the largest historic emitters of the greenhouse gases announces, once again, its withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. This is not merely symbolic. It's a setback from humanity's collection effort. And it reaffirms that we, the BRICS countries, must strengthen our islands and act with firmness and solidarity and coherence. The time for hesitation is over. What is at stake is the future of a people, especially of women who are disproportionately affected by the impact of the climate change, yet remain underrepresented in the decisions that shape this fight. We need concrete inclusion and founded actions. And here I make a clear demand, which should echo as BRICS' position. The countries historically most responsible for carbon emission need to fulfill their climate debt. It's not fair that the poorest country bear the cost of the energy transition alone, while facing drugs, floods, and food insecurity. Climate finance needs to reach the grassroots, and it needs to reach it to women. In this regard, I would like to discuss some proposals, in my view, can be jointly developed among our countries. First, credential of BRICS found for women in climate. Aim a project led by women in the vulnerable communities, such as family farmers, indigenous leaders, and environment entrepreneurs. Second, climate education platform for women, promoting access to science, knowledge, technology, and innovation, with emphasis on renewable energies and substantial adaptation. Third, a pact for women's climate leadership, articulate among us parliamentarians to ensure the presence of women in decision-making bodies on climate and energy transition, both with Parliament and beyond. Fourth, accelerators for women's green business, with support from the BRICS Bank to finance initiatives in circular economic, reforestation, agroecology, and clean energy led by women. Fifth and finally, the creation of BRICS Gender and Climate Observatory, which will allow us to make decisions based on data, diagnosed, and evidence regarding the specific impacts of climate change on women and girls. Fellow parliamentarians and other guests, we know that a just energy transition is not merely an environment issue. It's a matter of social justice, gender equality, and human dignity. We also know that women are not passive victims of this process. We are leaders, we are scientists, we are legislators, we are guardians of territory and traditional knowledge. We are the solution. I conclude with an appeal. May our presence here today not be limited to rhetoric. May it translate into coordinated action, political commitments, and real results. May BRICS be an alliance not just for not just of emergency economics, but international values that promote truly sustainable development with climate-adjusted and gender equality at its core. Thank you so much. Let's go together.
Parabéns, nossa líder.
Congratulations, our leader, esteemed leader and friend, Leila Barros.
Suas propostas.
Your propositions, they are excellent, and absolutely, Senator Leila. That's why we walk. You made a brilliant
Parabéns mais uma vez.
Appointment. Congratulations once again. Once the list of the panelists is over, and before ending this session, I'd like to thank the participation of everyone. And I'd like to clarify that in sequence, we're going to initiate the third session of works with the theme Building the Future, the parliamentary women and the BRICS agenda of 2025 that is going to be conducted by the Deputy Dandara. I'd like to say once again for all present here, ladies and gentlemen, that they feel welcome to our country, to our dear Brazil. Brazil warms you, each and every one of you, and together we will make the difference in this debate of BRICS that is happening right now. So, a great embrace of Senator Eudócia and also from all the Senate and all our deputies of the Federal Chamber. And I declare the end of the present session. Thank you very much.